4 types of concealer. Each one was engineered for a completely different problem. Use the wrong one, and you're actually making your skin look worse. Here's exactly how each one works. Liquid concealer. It's the most sold concealer format on the planet, and it outsells every other type combined by a ratio of nearly 3 to 1. The reason is versatility. Liquid concealer works on almost every skin type and every area of the face, which is why it became the industry default. But most people don't realize that not all liquid concealers use the same technology. There are 2 main categories: water-based and silicone-based. Water-based liquid concealers feel lighter, blend faster, and work better on dry skin because they don't cling to flaky patches. Silicone-based formulas create a thin film over the skin that fills in pores and fine lines, giving what the industry calls an optical blur effect. That silicone film is why some concealers look flawless in photos but feel heavy in person. The dimethicone and cyclomethicone create a smooth surface that reflects light evenly, essentially turning your under-eye area into a soft focus filter. Coverage in liquid concealers ranges dramatically. Sheer formulas contain about 5 to 10% pigment and basically function as a tinted moisturizer for your under eyes. Medium coverage sits around 15 to 25% pigment. Full coverage formulas pack 30 to 45% pigment into the same fluid texture, which is why they can crease. You're applying a high concentration of pigment suspended in liquid, and gravity pulls it into every fine line within 2 to 3 hours. The applicator matters more than most people think. Doe foot applicators deposit product unevenly, forcing you to blend out excess. Cushion tip applicators distribute a thinner, more controlled layer. The Maybelline Instant Age Rewind popularized the sponge tip applicator in 2010, and it became the best-selling concealer in the United States for over a decade, specifically because the applicator made blending almost foolproof. One thing the beauty industry rarely admits: liquid concealer was never designed for full face use. It was formulated specifically for the under-eye triangle and small blemishes. When people apply it across large areas like the forehead or cheeks, the water and silicone base breaks down faster because of increased oil production in those zones. The product migrates, separates, and oxidizes unevenly. If you need coverage across a large area, that's what the next type was built for: stick concealer. The stick format was originally developed by Max Factor in the 1950s for film actors who needed quick touch-ups between scenes without a makeup artist. The solid formula could be thrown in a pocket and swiped on in seconds without mirrors, brushes, or blending tools. That's why stick concealers to this day have the highest pigment concentration of any concealer format, typically 40 to 55% pigment by weight. The solid texture comes from a wax base, usually a blend of beeswax, carnauba wax, and candelilla wax. These waxes have melting points between 62 and 85 degrees Celsius, which means the product stays solid at room temperature but softens on contact with skin heat. This wax matrix is what gives stick concealer its defining characteristic. It stays exactly where you put it. Unlike liquid concealer that moves and settles, stick concealer adheres to the skin surface and resists migration. This makes it the best option for covering individual blemishes, acne spots, and scars. You apply directly, tap the edges to blend, and the product locks in place. Professional makeup artists call this spot concealing, and the stick format does it better than any other type. The high wax content also means stick concealer is naturally water resistant. Most formulas maintain 70 to 80% coverage even after 4 to 5 hours of wear without setting powder. The trade-off is texture. The same waxes that keep it in place can feel heavy and look thick on thinner skin, especially under the eyes where skin is only about 0.5 millimeters thick compared to 2 millimeters on the rest of the face. Wax-based products can also settle into fine lines and emphasize texture rather than concealing it. That's why professional makeup artists almost never use stick concealer under the eyes. They reserve it strictly for the nose, chin, jawline, and anywhere a blemish needs targeted coverage. Another detail most people overlook: stick concealers interact poorly with skincare products that contain oil. If you apply stick concealer over a facial oil, serum, or oil-based moisturizer, the wax can't grip the skin surface properly. The product slides, pills, and breaks apart within an hour. Always apply stick concealer over a water-based or matte primer for best adhesion. Cream concealer. Cream sits exactly between liquid and stick in both texture and coverage. It typically comes in a pot, palette, or compact, and it was the original professional makeup artist format long before liquid concealers existed. The cream base uses an emulsion of oil and water stabilized by emulsifiers, creating a texture that's thicker than liquid but more blendable than stick. The pigment concentration in cream concealers runs between 25 and 40%, which puts it in the medium to full coverage range. But the key advantage is buildability. Because cream concealer uses a balanced oil-water emulsion, you can layer it without it caking or cracking. Apply one thin layer for light coverage, add a second pass for medium, and a third for full. The emulsion base allows each layer to melt into the previous one rather than sitting on top. Cream concealer was the industry standard for film and television for decades because of one specific property: it photographs identically under both natural and artificial light. Liquid concealers can look different under tungsten versus LED versus daylight because the water base refracts light differently depending on the source. The oil-water emulsion in cream concealer scatters light more consistently, which is why HD and 4K camera operators still prefer cream-based products on talent. The coverage looks identical on every monitor regardless of the lighting setup. The pot format that cream concealer typically comes in exists for a functional reason. Cream concealer needs to be warmed before application. Professional artists tap 2 fingers into the product repeatedly before applying to raise the temperature and soften the emulsion. This warming step is what makes cream concealer blend seamlessly. If you apply it cold directly from the pot, it drags across the skin and creates streaks. 10 to 15 seconds of warming on your fingertips changes the viscosity completely. The biggest disadvantage of cream concealer is shelf life. The oil-water emulsion is more susceptible to bacterial growth than wax-based sticks or sealed liquid tubes. An open pot of cream concealer should be replaced every 6 to 8 months, compared to 12 months for liquid and 18 months for stick. Using a brush or spatula instead of fingers extends this because you introduce fewer bacteria into the product with each use. Color-correcting concealer. This category uses the exact same principle as CC cream. Complementary colors on the color wheel cancel each other out, but color-correcting concealers are far more concentrated and targeted than CC creams, containing 30 to 50% pure pigment in specific corrective shades. Green concealers neutralize redness. The pigment blocks red wavelengths of light between 620 and 750 nanometers from reflecting off the skin, making inflamed acne, rosacea, and broken capillaries effectively invisible under foundation. Peach and orange concealers counteract dark circles and hyperpigmentation, particularly on medium to deep skin tones, where blue and purple undertones in dark circles are more prominent. The darker your skin tone, the deeper the correcting shade needs to be. Light skin uses peach, medium skin uses bisque or salmon, and deep skin uses orange or red-orange. Lavender and purple correctors target sallowness and yellow undertones. Yellow concealers brighten dull skin and counteract purple bruising. Pink correctors add warmth to ashy or grayish undertones common in mature skin, or skin that's been overexposed to blue light from screens. The critical mistake people make with color correctors is using too much. These are not meant to be applied the same way as regular concealer. You need a thin, precise layer, roughly the size of a grain of rice for the entire under-eye area. Anything more and the corrective color shows through your foundation instead of neutralizing underneath it. Color correctors go on first, before any skin-toned concealer or foundation. They create a neutralized canvas, and your regular products go on top to match your actual skin tone. One detail the beauty industry has started acknowledging only recently: color-correcting concealers work significantly better on deeper skin tones than traditional skin-toned concealers. Standard concealers in deep shades often contain titanium dioxide to increase opacity, which creates an ashy, grayish cast. Color correctors bypass this problem entirely because they work with the skin's undertone rather than trying to mask it. If this video helped you figure out which concealer you actually need, subscribe so you don't miss the next ones, and drop a comment telling us which type you swear by, or which one you've been using wrong this whole time.